Hello, I am Ted Staver, a history student at Liberty University, and this is my presentation of the History 701 Dissertation Research Discussion Board project. Amid years of social unrest and cries to end police brutality and racism, I realized I did not have a firm grasp of the issues that surround these very complex ideas, and nor did I understand the beliefs of groups like Black Lives Matter. So I made a commitment to myself to learn what I can so I can be an informed citizen and, if given an opportunity, lend a voice based on steeped knowledge to this national conversation. I am also finding that the key to understanding the recent struggle for racial justice in our country lies in the past. In a sense, we are witnessing the rewriting of history, beginning with a death sentence served onto the lost cause, symbolized by the removal of the Stonewall Jackson, from the Monument Avenue in Richmond, Virginia, as the narrative of the South and the Civil War, and which has become a well-researched dissertation topic in the past 20 years. As the American Civil War came to a close in 1865, more Americans had died and were wounded in the struggle than all other American wars put together. President Lincoln, who emancipated the slaves in 1863, saw to the passage of the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery. Southern political leaders and senior military leaders, by law, were treasonous, but as early as 1863, President Lincoln began outlining amnesty, followed by President Andrew Johnson, who continued the same policy. Reconstruction never met its objective of redressing the inequities of slavery and its political, social, and economic legacy. With the war over, history was to be written, and the memory of the war was to be shaped. Some say that history is written by the victor, but in this case, it is suggested that groups like the Daughters of the Confederacy helped shape the narrative that the South fought a just war, united over states' rights, and although noble in their fight, they were simply overpowered by the industrial might in the resource-rich North, with little mention of slavery and of African Americans and their share in the New South following the war. Instead, the antebellum South was preserved as much as possible, casting the war as a just cause and the preservation of white supremacy, and from that, Jim Crow laws emerged to suppress the freed African Americans. This argument continues to evolve and branch out, as evidenced by critical race theory or other items of that nature. Pictured are the Daughters of the Confederacy unveiling the Southern Cross Monument at Arlington, Virginia in 1917. Also pictured is a newspaper article of the Daughters of the Confederacy unveiling a Confederate monument in Jacksonville, Mississippi in 1911. Here you see a high school assembly at Robert E. Lee High School in 1968, and here you have high schoolers in Montgomery, Alabama in 1968, waving the stars and bars. Here is an example of the changing narrative of the Civil War and the death of the lost cause. In the top right, you have a painting of Robert E. Lee, once a heralded symbol of the South, pictured gallantly on his beloved horse Traveler, painted by Dale Gallion in 2008. In the opposite corner, Lee is pictured next to Osama bin Laden and a Capitol rioter. The question here posed to the audience was, what did all three have in common? The answer: they all threatened American democracy. This is a radical departure from the remembered past of Robert E. Lee, and it is exemplified by United States Representative Jennifer Wexton and Donald McCann, each who wrote in their bill from Virginia, that is, to remove the Robert E. Lee's figure from the statuary in the Statuary Hall in the U.S. Capitol, which did occur on 21 December 2021. And they wrote, these statues aim to rewrite Lee's reputation from that of a cruel slave owner and Confederate general to portraying him as a kind man and reluctant war hero who selflessly served his home state of Virginia. So, as you see, a radical departure from the remembered past to what we have today. And to explain further, this chart of Lee, Osama bin Laden, the Capitol rider, was briefed in an army briefing on extremist activity, and this was shown, which unofficially has caused much angst amongst people within who observed this briefing. And the reason I say this is it's such a departure from the remembered past. So, moving right along. My study revealed 37 dissertation and theses emerged in a simple the lost cause search on the ProQuest dissertation and theses search. And that was on the first page, and there were several pages behind that. These scholarly works were ranged from 1972 to 2020, and they were directly tied to the Civil War lost cause. And I would say that most of them were dated after 2000. I read several abstracts and found all of them to follow a historical dissertation format. All were based on qualitative research. I found none to follow the 5-chapter introduction, review of literature, methods, findings, and discussion conclusion methodology. All were critical of the lost cause and offered a scholarly defense of their argument. Karen Lynn Cox, in Woman, the Lost Cause in the New South, framed the argument around the Lost Cause celebration that occurred in the early 1900s. Aaron Lewis, in The Confederate Triumvirate, asserts that the Southern whites championed the memories of Southern heroes to cope with the loss of slavery in the war. He also explores, as others, the popular memories of these figures, and that was Jefferson Davis, Stonewall Jackson, and Robert E. Lee, and he draws attention to Stone Mountain, where those figures are carved into stone as the Confederate War Memorial. Primary sources were used extensively in dissertations. In conclusion, I am no less troubled now with the new information I've gathered on the lost cause than I was before I began. By perusing these dissertations, I'm beginning to understand what it is meant by white supremacy and the depth of the roots of racism. This is a very complex topic and represents an unhealed wound in the very fabric of our nation, and I believe is causing Americans to confront the past for what it really was. And until we have that confrontation, I don't know if we can move forward. So you will also find an abstract and a source list as part of this posting. Thank you.